everybody. This is William del Pilar. This is Points on the Board, where politics and sports collide. Thank you, Colin Kaepernick. And I'm here to interpret it all for you. As I say in the Red, White, and Rude, politics is downstream of culture, and sports is part of that process. We don't always talk sports and politics. Sometimes there's just some off-the-wall stories that I have to bring you. And tonight we have another great show. We are going to talk about what seems to be in every other week discussion, if not every week, and that's transgender athletes. This week it's transgender athletes in the spotlight. Maine, California, and Evansville, Illinois. Then we're going to go back to good old Miss Mina Kimes. I guess I'll be polite. True. I don't know. She's just a little vile woman who always has to do what ESPN tells her to do when it comes to sports and politics. Another typical leftist take. Then we're going to talk about RG3, Robert Griffin III, and how some people believe he may be going back to his conservative roots. I will break that down. And then we'll close it out with my favorite segment, The Final Whistle, where I bring you stories from across the nation and at times from around the world. And I quickly, well, not always quickly, but much quicker than the main storylines, break them down and bring those to you with the conservative Latinos take. So, before we get going, do not forget to like and share this podcast. Yes, you can wait till after the podcast is done. And you can make sure to bookmark grumblingsmedia.com, where you can find this podcast and others like it, as well as YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, and Pandora, under the handle Grumblings Media. So let's get down to it. First topic, or what is on tap right now: transgender athletes in the spotlight. You know, the debate over transgender athletes in sports, I keep saying, is heating up. It's hot. It's hot. Trump has made it hotter by trying to rectify the Biden error. You know, I'm going to dig into three recent stories that show just how nuts this is, how divisive this issue has become. First, there's Maine. A federal ruling is threatening millions in school funding over transgender participation in girls' sports. Excuse me. What's happening is it's pitting state policy versus national mandates, i.e. Trump's laying the law down. You want some money? You better play. Meanwhile, in California, they are now facing a legislative push that will fail, but nevertheless, it's a push to ban transgender athletes from girls' competitions, obviously stirring up a storm of support and backlash. Then we are moving on to Evansville, Indiana. I said Illinois in the opening, I meant Indiana. It's a single event that has turned the small community into a battleground for transgenderism again. And that one deals with Senorita Riley Gaines, who has catapulted to the top of this discussion. All right, let's first break down Maine's Title IX showdown. So Maine's High School Sports Authority is under fire. Federal and state powers are colliding over the transgender athletes here. Again, no secret, girls' sports, boys playing in girls' sports. It's sparked by a recent ruling that's turned a long-simmering issue into a full-blown crisis. By long-simmering, just the last 4 years, once this nonsense started happening under Biden. So, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services ruled this past March 20th that Maine broke Title IX, and they did. I got a dry throat. I apologize. So, Title IX is a 1972 law that bans sexual discrimination in education. It was meant and is meant to protect girls' sports. But when you add boys playing girls' sports, they're breaking Title IX. Joe Biden tried to get transgenders as part of Title IX. The courts have shot that down. So thus, HHS says letting biological males compete in girls' sports violates it. True. This ties into President Trump's executive order. Remember all those executive orders he signed? Early on, this was one of them, demanding schools bar biological males or lose federal funds. And so Maine's been allowing transgender athletes at FEMA events when they claim to be, I'm a girl. You can play. And now the feds are cracking down. It's as simple as that. And they've been flouting Trump's authority to be able to enforce this. So there's what they are calling the NPA defense. So what is the NPA defense? It's the Maine Principals Association that oversees high school sports in the state. They claim they're exempt from Title IX because they don't get direct federal money. They don't get direct federal money. Indirectly, the matter of semantics is what I'm hearing with that line. But they claim they're exempt from Title IX because they don't get direct federal money. Their budget comes from ticket sales, sponsorships, and small school contributions. Now, there's all kinds of ways around that. So, for example, they may have a program where if you raise so much money, they'll match it in federal funds. They have all kinds of programs like that. So that would be an indirect way of receiving money versus, hey, here's $500,000 straight up. So they've set rules for years letting kids compete based on identity. I'm a girl today. All right, but, I wish they would do that in college sports. So South Carolina, yeah, the head coach, I forget, Don Staley, I think, says, oh, yeah, girls. I mean, she bent the knee. She bent the knee to her masters and claimed, hey, it's okay. Well, I wish every school on her schedule would have a man declare their gender, a couple of college boys, and watch the beatdown they would get. She'd be singing a different tune. So Maine has let kids compete based off identity, not birth sex. So the HHS ruling has put this exemption under scrutiny, and they're challenging their stance. Now, there's a lot of legal issues here, but in essence, the conservative side, and specifically, I was reading up with Sarah Perry, I read what they were saying, and Kristen Wagner, two conservatives, and they're weighing in on this. They're saying that the court precedents showing sports associations can be subject to Title IX if they govern or control schools that do receive federal funds. So here's the bottom line. Trump can eventually cut off the indirect way they receive money if it's through a third party or whatnot. And it sounds like the courts have already ruled that, hey, if you're controlling aspects of schools that are under Title IX, then yes, you are obligated to follow Title IX. They're saying they're not. So that direct link undermines NPA's defense, as their authority over member schools binds them to the same rule, funds or not. So they predict lawsuits unless the Supreme Court defines sex in Title IX as biological. And this is going to escalate into another legal standout with Maine. It says in my notes, caught in crossfire, but no, they're not caught in crossfire. They are pushing this fight. So I said something, this direct link undermines NPA's defense. Well, you're thinking, what direct link? Well, what ties it? They say they're not receiving federal funds. Well, what are you talking about, William? So the NPA thinks it's off the hook because it doesn't take federal dollars directly. But Perry and Wagner say that's not the case. Courts have ruled that if you're an organization like the NPA calling the shots for other schools that do get federal money, you're still under Title IX's umbrella. So what am I trying to say? Because I'm repeating myself. So it's the public schools they control. And public high school sports ties it to those schools' federal funding obligation. And that's where the tie-in comes in. They control federal or public schools who do get public funding. And that's what they meant by, we don't get it directly, the public schools do, and if they're under your purvey, you are obligated, per the courts, from what these two conservative lawyers say. And they can't sidestep the issue, or the law, actually. So that's setting the stage for a legal clash. They will probably lose, and the schools will eventually, the lawyers, look, we're going to lose a lot of money here. We keep fighting this, and we're going to lose at the end of the day. So I don't expect this fight to last long. But why is this fight happening? Because of Governor Janet Mills. The NPA aligns with what she's pushing, and she's a Democrat. And she's saying, it's funny. Federal law trumps state law. She's saying state law trumps federal law here. I mean, that's at the bottom line. She may not say it, but that's what she's saying through her actions. So I think what will happen is Trump will say, all right, none of you public schools are going to get it because they're doing that. Then they're going to get, because the NPA is doing this. Then all the public schools, those big ones, are going to start pressuring the NPA. So Mills says this is an overreach. It's not an overreach at all. It's part of the law. Here's part of the problem. Trump is fighting like leftists fight. Leftists will take every nook and cranny of that law and interpret it to their own doing. In this sense, Trump's following their lead, but he's got precedent on his side. HHS gave Maine 10 days to comply or face Department of Justice action. Over $200 million in annual K-12 funding is at stake. She's going to cave. Because if she doesn't, every parent's going to vote against her. Because 80% of parents, I want boys out of girls' sports. So they've already lost part of this case. Maine has, because the University of Maine system, UMS, not UMS, not NPA, faced a USDA funding pause last week. And that's 8 public universities with nearly $30 million yearly from the USDA. So after Trump's orders, the USDA demanded proof UMS bars biological male from women's sports. UMS confirmed compliance with revised NCAA rules, avoiding the funding cut. However, Trump says you will apologize, Ms. Mills, Governor Mills, and saying you ain't getting a dime till you apologize. Is that abuse? Maybe, but I don't care at this point. You got to get them to bend the knee. And my friends, I'm tired of those who say, well, that's not right. Well, were you complaining when Democrats did it? Well, that wasn't right either. Well, fight fire with fire is what ends up getting water doused on it all. If you let one fire rage and rage, it's going to get bigger. When we come in with our fire, then they all go, well, we got to put this out. And they douse it and go, hey, let's take a step back. Y'all shouldn't have this much power at the executive level. Well, get Congress to do their job even, because I agree. But until then, we need to fight Democrats with Democrat firepower as well. And that's what Trump's doing. So NPA and Mills, however, stand firm with only 2 transgender girls competing in high school sports this year. I'm sick of that. Only 2, only this, only that. Well, you tell the parent of the girl who's practiced her whole teen life, since 7th grade, to get to become a junior, sophomore, junior, senior, and then to have what could be a championship taken away from them. That happened in Illinois. Girl been working since I don't know, 6th, 7th grade, and she comes in second because a boy beat her. All right, let's move on to California's AB 89 legislative push. California's Assembly member Kate Sanchez of Rancho Santa Margarita introduced AB 89. So it aims to stop biological males from competing in girls' sports. The first hearings in April, and obviously it's riding the wave of the Trump's Title IX executive order. And again, you don't like it, Democrats, you don't like it, leftist swine, that's on you. You made no complaints when Obama abused it. I have the power of a pen. You're like, now that Trump's doing it, democracy's at stake. When Biden did it, there was no democracy at stake. When Obama did it, there was no democracy at stake. Now it's democracy at stake. Please. So the bill's timing makes it a flashpoint. Why? Governor Gavin Newsom stated in his inaugural podcast of "This is Gavin Newsom" that it's unfair. Sanchez calls it a fight for fairness and safety in girls' sports, and she's 100% true. Just ask Peter McNabb. She's paralyzed temporarily and still suffers brain damage. All the qualities that you get out of a Democrat. So then you have groups like Greater Sacramento Young Republicans. And even the log cabin Republicans are supporting this. Why? Well, they want fairness, truth, and science. They may be gay. The log cabin is the Republican wing of the gay community. They understand what it's like transgenderism has co-opted the gay movement. It's what's happened here. And a lot of gay individuals and leaders do not like that. Again, when you talk about Governor Gavin Newsom's past fairness comments, they bring that up too. And you know what? Honestly, his next conservative guest on his podcast must bring this up. Yo, Gab, come here, Gab. We got to talk. Gotta talk to you. What's this stuff about fairness? Yeah, you're right. Well, okay, well, if you think it's fairness, because he wants to be president, why the hell haven't you spoken out on AB 89? He's yet to say a word about it. Newsom's a fraud. What he's doing, he's getting conservatives on his show to practice himself up. You know, the more you battle conservatives, the better you get for a presidential run. He doesn't believe any of the garbage he's saying. He's just trying to lie to America. So, you know, I've been conservative here for a while now. We're in a different era. I think Gavin's window is over. So Sanchez highlights girls losing scholarships. They're giving them the boys for a girls' sport. But Youth Pride Association says that's okay. It's deserving. Those boys deserve the scholarship over a girl to play in the girls' sports. They say the Youth Pride Association, these ignorant fools, they don't know how to wipe their tush yet. And they're telling everybody else how to live their lives. They call it a blatant attack on LGBTQ kids. Really? It's a blatant attack. Yeah, it's those kids attacking the girls. Metaphorically, but by beating them in sports because they are physically superior. So, and the Youth Pride Association, a bunch of little kids being funded by the Soros types. They fought similar bills. No, Soros is funded. Lawyers he's paid for to represent you. Period. End of story. The Sacramento LGBT is spewing lies. It's transphobic and exclusionary. So that the right of gains. There's a man who was still sporting a schlong in the locker room. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Purposely naked. Saying, I'm a girl. Leah Thomas, Will Thomas, ranked in the 400s as a man, ranked number 1 by a couple of swim pool lengths as a woman. They say there's no solid science showing transgender girls have an edge. That's just a flat out lie. This bill will go down in flames, but I think a great purpose of this bill is for 2026. Any parent who has a girl is a conservative vote. If the conservative gets into that blue district and makes this a one vote issue, your daughter's security, her physical health is the key. Your daughter, she ain't get that scholarship going to that California school. Well, it's because of your opponent. Because here's what will happen. A lot of these people running will sit there and say they vote. They're for it. They'll change their minds. So what has to happen, and another vote needs to happen. Or if there's another bill from conservatives needs to go up. But at the end of the day, you get my point. As I said, I think it's going to lose. If it doesn't, it's going to reshape California sports. We'll see how this plays out, and I'll bring you an update. Let's head on to Evansville, Indiana, the local Flashpoint. This was a quick one. Riley Gaines had a speech at Mater Dei High School in Evansville, hosted by Right to Life of Southwest Indiana and the University of Southern Indiana Students for Life. So she spotlighted the opposition to transgender women in sports and, of course, protesters. You know, and these people can be violent. You know, we've seen this violence on campus already. It's one reason Trump will win his deportation of a Hamas supporter. What I feel, in my mind, is what you call a young Hamas agent who starts spreading hate and discontent. My proof? Look at when Palestine after October 7th and that vile, brutal murders they did, and how people like this Colombian guy who's going to be deported supported that, along with others. And they told the Jewish kids, you got to stay home, we're going to teach you online. Because they feared for the Jews' safety. You know, Riley Gaines, she's at that point now, probably has to have security. So granted, this one was a small protest, but it was a small community. Small community. There's a push by this individual named Ren. Sounds like a Japanese anime. Ren Samurai. Yasuke Samurai. Ren could fit in there. So she's pushing the city council for a resolution. You got to protect boys playing girls' sports. Those poor defenseless boys. Babies got bigger cojones than those boys. So this follows Indiana's 2022 ban on transgender girls in sports, and good for them. And 2023 limits on care for minors. So her move counters Riley Gaines, but at the end of the day, Riley's a tough girl, and she'll get over this, as she has every one of it. The point is these protests are still happening. It's like TDS. It truly is a disease. If you think a boy is the equal of a girl in sports, no, it's superior. Superior. So that's a trio of tales, folks. Maine's funding fight, California legislative gamble. It's not really a gamble, it's a long shot. And Evansville's community clash. Each underscores a troubling trend of morons wanting boys to beat up on girls. Radical identity politics. When you talk about these protesters and people pushing it, they're okay with castrating, of cutting the breasts off of young girls. They're okay with all that. This debate isn't just about athletics. It's about ideological beliefs and controlling our kids' future. The battle lines are drawn, and I believe President Trump is an X factor. Nobody expected him to win. Well, I did, as did 70 million conservatives, because it was too big to win. And this fight is not over, but I think it's starting to wind down. I really do. And there you have it, my friends. Transgender battles of the week. All right, let's get to Mina sparks debate on sports and politics with Jackie Robinson commentary. So, y'all may not like my take here, and it's not a bad take. It's a realistic take. I live in Reelsville. So first of all, who is Mina Kimes? She's a shrew. That's what I call her. She's ESPN's shrew. Technically, an NFL analyst, senior writer, and host of the Mina Kimes show, featuring boy toy Lenny. I don't know. I've never heard it. Never watched it. The Mina Kimes show featuring Lenny. I'm just poking fun at Lenny, because anybody who works with Mina Kimes, God help ya. That's what you call like nice pool from Wolverine Deadpool. That's all I could think of. Am I being mean? No, I'm being sarcastic. There's a difference, people. Background. So, this is funny. She's Asian, and she's very cosmopolitan in how she presents herself. Yeah, she's from Omaha. Every time I hear Omaha, I think of two things: Omaha's steak and Omaha's Wild Kingdom. They sponsored it. Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Smart girl, summa cum laude. She was journalist for Bloomberg. You know, she look, anybody can spew numbers out. I'm sorry. You know, you have them in front of you, you can spew them out. So I don't know how smart she is, or if she's reading out the prompter. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. You do not become summa cum laude without being dumb. So I'm sure she knows what she's talking about, and she's a pretty good analyst. Because, you know, when you don't, it eventually comes out and you don't last long. So I'm not going to sit here and denigrate her for her knowledge of football. I assume she knows it. She's a rich girl in terms of her ESPN contract. She also fits the bill. She's an Asian woman. They love to sit there and brag about that. But she's also polarizing because she lies about politics when it comes to political. She says no truths. She just spews the nonsense at ESPN. Her masters tell her, "I'll be strong, independent women. You will say this. You will say that." Yes, I'm asking. Yes, I'm asking. You know, her military dad should be ashamed of what he produced. Oh, man. So, what are some of the examples of her vileness, her evilness, her shrewdness? Well, Tim Walz, modeling a different kind, quote, modeling a different kind of masculinity, unquote. She's married to a girl. In terms of, maybe it's a man, but it's a girl for all intents and purposes. If she views Tim Walz as the model masculinity, Tim Walz, who last week, I can beat up everybody for MAGA. He's actually in his mid-50s. Looks like he's in his late 70s. The man has not aged well. He's dumb as a rock. Well, shucks. At the VP division, well, shucks. You know, I'm just a simple, stupid man who can't say anything right, but vote for me and Kamala. uh, she tied it to the Kelsey brothers, claiming it's beyond politics. No, she's all political. You know, Michelle Tafoya, a well-respected sports reporter, dubbed it embarrassing. Yeah, and you know the thing about her is she gets to spew all her lies, all her nonsense. Say still, she should spew something truthful, she gets fired. Karen Bass endorsement. We see how well that went with old Karen Bass. Here's my invitation to Karen Bass. Miss Bass, you gonna answer? But according to the summa cum laude, Mina Kimes, she's the best candidate for mayor, despite the fact that Rick Carrillo, her opponent, when it came to the fire, all his properties were protected. Had firemen, had it all set up all right. Boom, none of it. And then they're like, those fire trucks should have gone to where they were needed. No, they stayed there. Why? Because they were paid for, and it kept the fire from spreading from around those areas. Nina Kimes, today's modern woman, a feminazi. Yeah, I don't like her. I don't like her. And again, it was another ESPN breach. Buyer say steal, praise Nina Kimes. And if you disagree, you're racist. Oye, yo soy latino, so vete carajo, idiota, estúpida muchachita. She whined for about 1.5 hours regarding climate change after the Trump-Harris debate. People say she's contextual. I'm not going to argue, but she's still hateful. She's a very sanctimonious woman because she has ESPN backing her. The problem with people like her, no, not Asian women, not because she's a woman, people like her, progressive morons, is once they leave the confines of ESPN, they tend to fail. I mean, Bomani Jones, he's what you call your classic DEI hire, and everywhere he's gone, he has failed after fail after fail. Why do I say he's a DEI hire? Well, we know why he was hired, but yeah, he couldn't succeed, and they kept trying. You know, and the guy's just talentless when it comes to his topics of how to be a host. I mean, heck, my podcast is growing. I remember just 18 months ago we were at single digits. Now we're at a few thousand. Now that's still not a lot, but we're growing. And that's what matters. We're keeping it moving forward. And we're not even doing any advertising or anything like that. Just word of mouth. Well, word of algorithm, I guess. Again, she's nothing but a sanctimonious, enabled by ESPN's left-wing bias. What's the latest controversy? Jackie Robinson, who broke the baseball barrier. That's what he's known for. He broke the baseball barrier. Wasn't even considered the best player, but the best man to make that transition to break that barrier. And God bless him. They retired his number everywhere. And that's what he's known for. So they removed him from the military, from the Department of Defense website. And she had a cow. Quote, you cannot tell his story without acknowledging racial discrimination. Unquote. Okay, yeah, that story is baseball. That's what he's known for. And I say this because he's not the best example to put up there. For baseball, yes. Not for the military. RG3, who we're going to talk about in a moment, and others have called her a leftist. Well, no, not RG3, but others have called her a leftist activist, which she is. She's weaponized sports, which is why I do points on the board to push back against her vile hate, her evil lies. And that may sound rough and tough. I mean, rough in terms, but I'm speaking truth. I'll take her on a debate any day of the week. I'll destroy her. I don't need a little... we're actually similar backgrounds. But the reason I say you got to take them off. Well, is Jackie Robinson the only black man? Is Jackie Robinson the only minority? He's known and made his mark to the world through baseball. There are greater examples of other minorities doing more who could be and should be honored. Let me show you some, or talk to you about some of them. Some black men. William H. Carney, Civil War soldier with the 54th Massachusetts Infantry, who became the first black American to receive the Medal of Honor for protecting the U.S. flag during the Battle of Fort Wagner in 1863. Huh. Maybe if you learned some history, Mina. Henry O. Flipper. Flipper. The first black graduate of West Point. That's breaking a barrier. That's military. That's an example of what should be under the Department of Defense. He did that in 1877, the first black commissioned officer in the U.S. Army. Barrier number 2. They go hand in hand. And he served with the famous Buffalo soldiers. What about Benjamin O. Davis, the first black general in the U.S. Army? Served through the Spanish-American War, World War I, and World War II, and advocated against racial discrimination in the military. Well, that's got to be given at that point in time, something like that. Lawrence Joe, a Vietnam War medic who received the Medal of Honor in 1967 for saving numerous lives in the fire. The first living black American to earn it since the Spanish-American War. So those are all better, Mina. Miss Summa Cum Laude. You remind me of Sybil Shepherd in Moonlight and the Shrew. The Taming of the Shrew. You know, I really do want to see her move on from ESPN to see how well she does, because she won't. She won't. People from ESPN rarely, if ever, as personalities to the reporters. Yo soy Latino. So let's talk about this other minority. Joseph H. De Castro, Mexican-American who served in the Union Army during the Civil War with the 19th Massachusetts Infantry. He became the first Latino Medal of Honor recipient for capturing the Confederate flag at Gettysburg. David B. Barkley, a Mexican-American soldier in the U.S. Army during World War I with the 356th Infantry. He swam the Meuse River under enemy fire to gather intelligence. Poor guy drowned. But he was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. I can make a Latino joke, but I'm not crazy. It was always made towards me when I was a kid. I just laughed it off. Like Zeke Arkham, a libertarian conservative on X, they're always dissing on him. He just laughs it off. Then there's Clito Rodriguez, a Mexican-American in the U.S. Army during World War II with the 148th Infantry. He killed over 80 Japanese soldiers in Manila, earning the Medal of Honor for his actions. Woo! Well, that's quite the notch making on the belt. Then there's Joe P. Martinez, a Mexican-American soldier. Man, those Mexicans, they know how to fight. Oh, you bet that carajo es Yo soy Latino. A Mexican-American soldier in the U.S. Army during World War II with the 32nd Infantry. He led assaults in the Battle of Attu, posthumously receiving the Medal of Honor for his bravery. Well, mackerel, he only lived to be 23 years old, poor guy. Then there's Roy P. Benavidez, Mexican-American Green Beret in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. Saved 8 men under heavy fire in 1968 despite severe injuries, earning the Medal of Honor. Ricardo E. Cavazos, Mexican-American who became the first Latino 4-star general in the U.S. Army, serving with distinction in Korea and Vietnam, earning 2 distinguished service crosses. Then Ramon Colon Lopez, a Puerto Rican, hey, my brother in here, who served in the U.S. Air Force, became the first Latino senior enlisted advisor to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in 2019 with combat experience in Afghanistan. And for the record, we're writing to our congressman to validation to prove this, but when I did my research, they said the first Latino enlisted to make E9 was like in the 80s. My dad made it in the 60s. He's Puerto Rican. So I'm getting ready to write my congressman. We got a family powwow on this. My dad's 92. And, you know, you start thinking of things like that. He made E9 in the 60s, and he told us he was the first Latino to make E9. So we're going to get that verified. But a lot of great minorities. Mina, you act like Jackie was the only one. And Jackie deserves his due for everything he did in baseball. There are others more deserving in the military. And that's not a knock on Jackie. That's a knock on Mina Kimes' ignorance and stupidity. Because she's smart enough to shed where she should have realized it, but she wanted to get political. That's all she is. She's a victim mentality. And then she's what you call one of those elitists. She's got to go fight everybody else's battle that nobody's asking her to fight for them. All right, let us move on to RG3, shifting perceptions of Robert Griffin III's persona. First of all, this has come about recently. Robert Griffin III's journey through fame has been an ugly whirlwind. And now fans are wondering if he's going from an early conservative image to an ESPN, I only see race, to now possibly returning to his conservative roots. Well, first off, for those who aren't aware, Robert G. Griffin III, known as RG3, is a former NFL quarterback turned broadcaster. He's born to U.S. Army parents. He won the Heisman Trophy in 2011 at Baylor University. 4,300 yards passing, 37 touchdowns. He played in kind of like a run and shoot system. However, he put up the numbers. He was drafted second overall by the Redskins in 2012. My first take was, this guy's skinny. He's not going to last long if he's going to keep running like he did in college. You know, but he got Offensive Rookie of the Year, but had injuries. And he's going to get injuries like he had with this frame. He's going to get hurt. And to make a long story short, Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan's father, because RG3 wanted to be a pocket QB, and Shanahan was like, yeah, look, we're going to work you towards that. Right now, it's a process. You just don't drop back in your pocket QB. It takes time, practice, etc. We got to use your skills and slowly get you in there. It's a process. I don't want to hear it. They got Kyle Shanahan fired. In essence, RG3 destroyed his career. Did not get along with Jay Gruden. Tried to bully Jay Gruden. Did not work. His playing skills kept diminishing with each injury. Offense didn't fit his style, even though he wanted to be a pocket passer. Ended up being a backup for the rest of his career. And ended up washing out of the league. Yeah. Anyway, Offensive Rookie of the Year, 2012. Played for the Cleveland Browns as a backup, 2016. Ravens backup, 18 to 20, and retired in 2021 before joining ESPN. So during his rise in the early 2010s, and we started getting his pub there because it was Baylor play, many assumed he'd be conservative given his Heisman win at Baylor, private Baptist University, his clean-cut, faith-driven image. As a rookie, his focus was football, his military family background. Both parents were Army sergeants. He said the right things, and he avoided political activism. So that was in contrast to Colin Kaepernick, who never did anything in his life, and his girlfriend says, or a guy says, yeah, go ahead and take the knee. His girlfriend pushed him. Colin Kaepernick, that was my time when I was covering the league, when I knew a lot of insiders. They said he was never a leader. He always did what he was told to do. And that's how it is today still. His one chance he had would have been with the Ravens, and his girlfriend called the owner racist. Owner said, okay, we ain't signing you. It was pretty much that simple. Okay, so once RG3 went to ESPN, he completely shifted. He started the shift shortly after, but he saw the writing on the wall. I gots to be tribalistic. Gots to be tribalistic. What's that? You disagree with me? You're a racist. What's that? What's that? You disagree with Rankin? You're a racist. Everybody was racist. Racist. I mean, he's just shifted. Some fans, he went rogue. No, he just played the game. It's easier to jump on the bandwagon, get a fat paycheck like ESPN was giving him. Do what ESPN said. Boy, when you come to the ESPN plantation, you do as you're told. That's ESPN. And that's what he did. Wanted to please the ESPN brass. Delivered takes out of line with the network's progressive leftist violins. And he was clearly doing it to secure his role and boost his media career. He was always with the hot button issues, and he got more crazy with some of the takes. They were just way up there. Like, what? Even his ESPN bosses were like, I mean, when leftists go, you know you've gone off the plantation. And that's what he did. So, whether this was a genuine evolution, I don't know. I think it was probably more of a strategic play if he continues to go back to his conservative roots. And it remains to be debated. Look, as a Latino, I've seen this happen a lot within the Latino framework. Depending on what crowd you're with, that's what you spew in terms of work, etc., etc. You know, so he was fired in 2024. His contract was not renewed, I guess. He defended Florida State amid a politically charged playoff snub. He hinted at friction with ESPN's editorial line. And what was that all about? Well, Florida State went 13-0, but was controversially left out of the 2023 college football playoff with one loss, Alabama and Texas, after quarterback Jordan Travis's injury. Sparked debate over bias in ESPN CFP broadcast influence, and I also agree. The problem with these playoffs, they look at the team. Well, yeah, he's injured, so now you're going to lose. That's not how it works. The team earned it. They got the wins, and somebody gets hurt. So be it. You don't penalize the rest of the players. It's disgusting and what you call very elitist, but that's how college football is. I mean, heck, we had Alabama going into the playoffs this past season until the pushback became so damning they kind of reversed course. So, on August 14th of that year, 2024, Griffin fiercely defended FSU on social media against ESPN's Paul Finnebon's mockery of their snub reaction, calling out the injury excuse and praising their grit in terms of Florida State University versus ESPN's pro SEC tilt. They said, "You out of here! You can't leave the plantation and expect to be rewarded, RG3." That's what ESPN's masters pretty much determined. That's my opinion. Whether true or not, I'll take my experience in seeing how sports works and has played out over the last 30 years over anybody. So they fired Griffin the next day, citing financial reasons. But the timing after his FSU stance suggests, we don't like you being defiant. No. You've been talking to Sage Steele, haven't you, RG3? You've been talking to Sage Steele. By March 2025, this month, his post decrying politics and sports media struck many as a return to the conservative ethos. He told Mina Kimes, sports and politics don't mix, when she talked about Jackie Robinson. Me? I don't know. He's gone from an assumed conservative darling to ESPN's plantation team player and now a potential rebel. I don't know. All it does is show me how somebody who is not true to themselves can shift to be accepted by one side and then another for selfish reasons. He wants the clicks. So Griffin's gone from college star to NFL washout to ESPN tribalistic voice. And now we don't know. Whether he's reclaiming his old roots or chasing new ground, who knows? And I'm going to be honest, who cares? He's got a couple million followers on X. But at the end of the day, you know, he's just another voice out of millions out there, including myself. My voice is good. And there you have it, my friends. Let us get down to the final whistle, where I take a quick, fast look at issues facing the nation from a sports/political or just a sports take. So let's get down to it. The final whistle number one: Trump's patriotic presence elevates NCAA wrestling championship. So President Trump went to the NCAA men's wrestling championship, and I knew of this. In fact, a guest on Fired Up, his nephew was in the tournament, had won it the year before. He was looking forward to winning it to shake Trump's hands, and sadly, he got beat. But I knew it was a big event for them, and chants broke out, USA, USA, USA. You know, chants that libertarians and Democrats hate. You know, they always claim nationalism is a negative. So when I broke down the definition of nationalism to libertarian ones, I go, well, it does mean this too, doesn't it? Oh, yeah. I'll go, that's what he's doing. No. All he wanted to talk about was the negatives of nationalism. Because they turned the term into a negative. But that's not what it means. Look, everybody needs to be patriotic. That's what keeps your country strong. What starts to tear a country apart is when you put your culture before your country. Meaning, I am Latino, that's my culture, but I am America first. Instead, you're hearing, I'm Latino first, I'm black first, I'm Asian first, really. All you're doing is setting us up for a terrible, terrible civil war. We're getting to a point where eventually, once the government starts to lose control, it's going to get ugly. It may take 50, 60, 100 years from now, but at this rate, our country's doomed. So we've got to come together. So it's good to see Trump bringing some of our patriotism back. That's what makes a strong country. That's what unites us. So it was a heavyweight final. I guess stole the show. There was a big upset with the Air Force Second Lieutenant Wyatt Hendrickson upsetting the Olympic gold medalist Gable Stevenson. And that culminated in a flag waving celebration and a handshake with Trump. So good for him. And that did nothing but amplify the event's patriotic fervor. The final whistle number 2, ESPN's controversial snub of Caitlin Clark. Is it really controversial when it's ESPN doing that? So ESPN had a recent ranking of the top 5 women's college basketball players, and it's obviously sparked some serious outrage since they excluded Caitlin Clark, the NCAA's all-time leading scorer. They relegated her to honorable mention. Now you got to look at things like this. She was on a team with nobodies. She carried those players. She's 2-time National Player of the Year, broke 30-some-odd records. But they should know it's about championships. No, when you're talking individual players, it's about the players. She didn't go to Connecticut or South Carolina that has stat All-Americans on their team. She went to a team with nobodies and made that team an NCAA tourney regular. Breanna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, they were playing on teams that were stacked. Jason Whitlock brought that up too. And this just shows, and I agree with Whitlock, it shows the ESPN bias against Clark. They're inconsistent. It depends who the player is. See, these are contests. I can't remember, but the kid from Malcolm in the Middle, when he did his first Grand Prix race, he won it. He said that was the greatest feeling in the world. It doesn't matter what award he would get as an actor. There was just people picking him. This was something he earned that could never be taken away from him. So these 5 people, just a bunch of elitists at ESPN hating on Caitlin Clark, picking everybody else but her. Individually, she was dominant, period. The final whistle number 3, police blotter. That's right. Georgia wide receiver Nitro Tuggle arrested. I love that. Nitro Tuggle. A pattern of reckless driving among UGA athletes? I think so. He was arrested just last week for speeding and reckless driving in Athens. And look, this is just an ongoing issue where the University of Georgia football players, like the 50s, the players can do anything. It's going to take somebody dying before somebody clamps down and fires that coach. Being a college coach is not just about on the field. You're taking the responsibility of helping to turn these young men into men. And whether you admit it or not, that's part of the role of the head coach. So they have suspended him indefinitely from team activities, not the season. There's been over 30 documented cases of UGA players or staff facing charges for speeding, reckless driving, or racing since January of 2023. You think you got problems there? And when the first person dies, it's not going to be the player who gets sued. They will get sued too because of NIL money. So the coach personally, the school board personally, the dean personally, the president personally, and the school. They're going after everybody. And they'll have a good case because there's nobody in any of those players or boards I mentioned that is doing anything to change this. What they needed to do is pull his scholarship, if he has one, and suspend him for the whole season. Kirby Smart's an idiot allowing this to happen. There's no accountability under him. This is a permissive team culture. Now, people say, oh, no, it's his job for them on the field. Yeah. Wait till the shirt kid gets killed. Final whistle number 4. Northville coach Jim Zulu dismissed after Ponytail. I didn't see that. Jim Zulu, head coach of the Northville High School girls basketball team, was fired on March 22nd, 2025 after a widely publicized incident where he pulled player Haley Monroe's ponytail following the state championship game loss, prompting outrage and a swift dismissal. Check it out. Now, the girl did come to her defense. Hey, what you doing, man? He's like, get on me, woman. Get on me, you little girl. Whoop. Like Curly. Whoop, whoop. I'm old school. That type of stuff I saw happen a lot. Not ponytails, but guys being pushed up, jacked around for the coach. That said, it's a new world, and you can't do that. So that didn't bother me. I'm the father. I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, but suck it up. Yeah, that's old school, but that's not how the world works. So I can't argue or defend him, and nor will I. I do know this: he came out of retirement. He taken school 2 times to the state championship, and well, I guess there's no money in it, so they fired him. The Northville Central School District labeled his actions unacceptable. Yet this same school system probably was allowing boys to castrate themselves and girls to have their breasts lopped off, and boys to play in girls' sports at one point as acceptable. But I can't defend this. It's drawn near universal condemnation for crossing physical boundaries. No definitive evidence has emerged confirming teammate intervention during the incident. I'm like, what are you talking about? Stop. Yeah, the girl defending her. But anyway, so long, coach. And he came out of retirement, as I said. So he's just going to go back to retirement. Final whistle number 5. Julio Urias faces MLB suspension over domestic, I was going to say DV, but domestic violence policy violation. He's a former LA Dodgers pitcher. He was suspended by Major League Baseball through the 2025 All-Star break for violating its domestic violence policy. It's his second such penalty under the league's regulations. He pleaded no contest in May 2024 to a misdemeanor domestic battery charge stemming from a 2023 incident outside BMO Stadium. That sounds like Body Odor Stadium, huh? BMO Stadium. And he was caught on video shoving his wife against a fence and attempting to strike her. Damn, bro. Obviously led to his arrest and subsequent suspension until July 17. So the suspension follows prior 20-game penalty in 2019 for a similar domestic battery incident. He's the first MLB player to be disciplined twice under the joint domestic violence policy. Bro, he needs help. He needs serious help. Well deserved. Final whistle number 6, Congressional Fitness Challenge, a call to action for youth health. So Arizona Republican Representative Abe Hamadeh and NFL legend Brett Favre, he of the penis shot sent via text phone via text. They propose a Congressional Fitness Challenge to address the declining physical health of American children. We're like 80% of our kids are fat. This was, if I was one of those kids, I can't even talk about it. These kids can't even wipe their tush properly. They're so fat. So they want to address the declining physical health of American children. So they want to revive the competitive spirit of the former presidential fitness test. I remember that. I think I got one of those sheets saying, hey, you passed the test or you did better than what? I can't remember. It's probably somewhere in my parents' house. So it's a voluntary program for kids aged 6 to 17 across public, private, and homeschool settings. They want to set it up. They want to foster physical excellence through measurable challenges like pull-ups, sit-ups, and a 1-mile run. I'm telling you, today's kids cannot do 1 pull-up. Some of them probably can't do a sit-up properly. 1-mile run? In fact, some schools have removed physical fitness. Can you believe that nonsense? And they want this supported by congressional resources. Hey, I'm for that. Support that. Not that, right now they're supporting illegal aliens. Come on, I got your time. Cross the border, you can do it. Yes, I'm making fun of that. Porque yo soy Latino. And for your rules, you can't do nothing to me. So vete carajo, idiota. So Hamadeh and Favre emphasize a broader impact of youth fitness. I agree with them. And they argue that healthier kids lead to a stronger, more prosperous America. That's not, sounds silly in how I said it, and I shouldn't have, because it's true. You get a healthy kid, man, they can just do so much more. My business, we were working 16, 18 hours. I was easily 10 years older than my youngest guy, and I was outlasting him. My partner, I'd be up and going, not because I wanted to, I was just in shape, worked out, allowed me to work longer, handle stress better. We need this program. Final whistle number 7. Controversy shadows UNC's NCAA tournament bid as the Tar Heels fall to Ole Miss in the first round. So I brought this up because this was the main topic last week and how UNC got in and shouldn't have. Well, I was hoping they'd lose to my San Diego State Aztecs, but they got shellacked, the Aztecs. So I'm like, damn, maybe UNC's for real. But no, they got whacked in the first round. They were the number 11 seed, and there was debate because they did not deserve it. And I'll still say that. They had a 112 quad 1 record. So they got beat 71-64. That's an embarrassment. 7-point loss to number 6. Boy, that program's falling. Well, I won't get into that why, but I will in an episode because I'm from North Carolina. Tar Heel basketball is huge. I don't see that coach lasting. So critics question UNC's tournament worthiness as their midseason slump left them on the bubble and their swift exit. Now, people say, William, they came over 22-point deficit. Well, they shouldn't have been that down if they were as good as people were saying. Well, they deserve to get in. No, they don't. Yes, they did. No, they don't. Yes, they did. They got whacked first round. So how somebody respond when you go, look, UNC got whacked in the first round. They never deserved to get in. You know what they're going to do? They're going to give you their Karen Bass imitation. So their selection over other contenders justified by a late season surge. In their eyes, it was not justified. And they did get a first full win, but their season was just horrific. Look for a serious coaches meeting with the athletic director and the president, and more importantly, some boosters, including legends from the school. Final whistle number 8. Nikki Sapp addresses dating rumors with Jamie Hawkins Jr. So Nikki Sapp is the ex-wife of Miami Heat head coach Eric Spoelstra. That's the only reason I'm talking about her. Recently took to social media to firmly deny rumors of a romantic relationship with Heat player Jamie Hawkins Jr. So, I mean, leave her alone. You know, that's my take. You know, and I kind of question what they're talking about. Is my sports related, a little offbeat. So let me toss it into the points on board because I like to talk about offbeat stories. She responded to the speculation which arose from social media linking her to Jaquez after her divorce from Spoelstra by posting a video on Instagram where she called the rumors 100% flat out not true. And she had already discussed the fabricated nonsense with Jaquez's girlfriend and mother. So the rumors gained traction following Spoelstra's lucrative contract extension with the Heat, and it prompted renewed trolling of her because she's being harassed, so she got divorced, and then he got a contract after they got divorced. She's still making a killing off of him. He's a multi-millionaire as the head coach of the Heat who has won a championship for them. So she countered this narrative with a strong denial and what they call a playful bikini-clad video. I got to be honest. Us Latinos, we love our rellenitas. Means we love the curvy ones. And this poor woman, she looks like she's anorexic. It's like, dear God, freaking eat some rice and beans, woman. It's like a boy with fake boobs. And I'm not saying it to knock on her. I'm like, gosh, you got to get that looks unhealthy to me. You got to eat something. Eat something, get healthy, woman. You're living in Miami, I assume, still. You know, a lot of Cubano restaurants, a lot of Puerto Riqueño arroz con pollo de charán. Even Panamanian arroz con pollo. O sopa. ¿Qué clase? No me importa, pero come, muchacha. Sí, Panamanian, Puerto Rican restaurants, Cuban restaurants. Just eat, woman. I worry when women look like that because they shouldn't. That's unhealthy. I went through that in the 80s and 90s because Hollywood. I did a paper on homosexuality, how influential. I thought we were past that, but you know, I guess more power to her if she's healthy. It's like Liza. You know, I'm like, that woman needs to shed some pounds for her health. How dare you, fat shame? Look, I don't care about what y'all want to talk political ideology. If I see somebody unhealthy, please eat or please don't eat. Final whistle number 9. Allegations against athletes, a call for caution. So, Xavier Worthy faced felony domestic violence charge, and I reported that. And I do remember saying that's got to play it out, see what happens. But I Not going to lie, I had to look at damn, man, you shouldn't be doing that. Turns out in this case, charges were quickly dropped. Evidence suggested his accuser fabricated the claims, while he later filed a lawsuit alleging abuse and extortion from her, saying she wants her cars, money, home. So in essence, she's playing the gold digger role, is what he said. But the point is we all were like, man, dude, you're guilty, and he's not. Why they dropped the charges? Because there was nothing to it. We need to be better with that. That's why I didn't put police blotter. Final whistle number 10. Trump invites the Kansas City Chiefs to the White House. So President Donald Trump announced the plans to host the Kansas City Chiefs at the White House to celebrate their Super Bowl, I don't know, 40, a couple of years ago, from 2020, which was previously postponed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I don't know if he's going to bring the current team or if players that have left that team, if that's who's coming. It should be, even the players who left should be invited. You got to invite the whole team now. It's kind of like, you don't do that. But make sure invitations go out to the players who have left the team or retired, Mr. President. Now, this win comes after the recent Super Bowl thrashing they got to the Eagles. So he extended the gesture to honor their earlier championship. Good for him. See, Trump, people hate Trump. Again, I always bring up the Central Park 5. He's racist. Look at Central Park 5. Then all of New York City is racist. My partner's silent on this because I'm sure he, along with the rest of them, thought those Puerto Ricans were guilty too. They act as if Trump was the only one out of all of New York City who said he's guilty. It was every Democrat in that city, including the black Democrats here. I researched this. It was the DA at the time. Every Democrat from state on down, they're guilty. They all like that was Trump. And I bring that up because of Trump. He does nice things, but they just want you to think of him as a racist. If he was a racist, he wouldn't have invited the Chiefs or the Eagles. He's not like that. So, obviously, this has sparked some discussion. Why? Well, that's the right thing to do. And with that, there you have it, my friends. The final whistle with number 10 and the Chiefs. So, as y'all know, Points on the Board is not your traditional sports show, as you saw. We talked about the transgender issues, a series of stories because it's still a lingering issue. We talked about Mina, who's just a vile, bigoted human being who doesn't think before she speaks, who is willing to throw strong black men and Latinos under the bus for a victim mentality in terms of what's been done with the defense, the military defense, by removing a man who's more known for his sports. Then we talked about RG3's transformation or not, and we closed it out with the final whistle. I hope you enjoyed those. And before I forget, you can catch this podcast and my other ones. I do the Red, White, and Rude, where I talk about culture and politics, and just culture at times. This past one's a great one. I break down Assassin's Creed Shadows and the debacle that is, Snow White and the box office bomb that is, and I do what's called the Rude Rundown. It's my lightning hits there. And then I have Fired Up California, where I talk about California politics. And if you're from California, you must listen to that. Same thing, a series of stories. We had a great episode this past week talking about the California Republicans and the changing of the guard and what that actually means, and I do not hold back. At one time, somebody told me, you're a rising star in this party if you want to be. Well, I spoke my opinion. All of a sudden, it wasn't the party opinion. My star diminished in the sphere. And then I had the Cali Blitz, hard hit, quick hits there. And then I also have Fired Up, conservative talk, national politics. And we have the hot takes at the end. And I think that's about it. For my podcast. But, I do 4 a week, so I'm pretty tied down with that. But you can catch all those at grumblingsmedia.com, bookmark it. You can find them at YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, and Pandora under the handle Grumblings Media. I hope you enjoyed the show. Do not forget to like and share, my friends. And until next time, I am William Del Pilar for Points on the Board. Until next week, take care.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.